friends. I'm really excited to share with you today the story of Josephine Baker. The back of this story tells us a little bit about her before we get started, so I'm going to read this first. Josephine Baker was born for the stage, but growing up in segregated St. Louis, she didn't have the same opportunities as white entertainers, so she moved to Paris, where audiences fell in love with her. Josephine worked as a dancer, an actor, and even a spy. She then spent the rest of her life spreading the word that people of all colors can live together in harmony. This inspiring story of her life features a facts and photos section at the back, so we can see some real pictures at the end of this story of the real Josephine Baker. And this is her story. This is written by Isabel Sanchez Figuera, and it is illustrated by Agathe Sorlet. This is the incredible story of a girl from St. Louis named Josephine. Some would say she was born with nothing, but she had 2 legs made for dancing, a dazzling smile, and a free spirit, and she was going to use them. When Josephine was a little girl, white people seemed to live in another world. They made all the rules, and these rules were very different if your skin color was black. But Josephine danced her way out of St. Louis and became a street artist, then a theater performer. When Josephine moved, her legs were elastic, fantastic. Josephine traveled to New York and became the last dancer on the end of a chorus line. But somehow everybody noticed her. Her movements were silly and stylish at the same time. Josephine knew that she had gone as far as the black woman could go in America at that time. So when she was offered a job in a new show in Paris, she jumped at the chance and sailed to Europe. Just imagine how Josephine felt arriving in France. Here, black and white people lived alongside each other. For the first time in her life, Josephine felt free. Josephine became a star overnight. The shimmy, the moosh, the mess around, the Charleston, all her movements were exciting. People had never seen anything like it before. First Paris, and then all of Europe. Her fame grew, and so did her pet collection. She shared her life with cats, dogs, fish, birds, a pig, a goat, and even a baby cheetah. Her heart was big and full of love to give. Josephine began singing and filming movies. She was the first black woman to ever star in a film. Her dazzling personality made her a total superstar. But then, World War II began, and half of Europe was invaded. Josephine knew she had to do something. She became a spy and smuggled secret reports in her music sheets. She was a hero of the French resistance. When the war ended, Josephine adopted 12 children from the 4 corners of the globe. She believed people of all colors could live together in harmony and wanted to prove it to everyone. But times were changing in America, and Josephine returned home. She traveled to Washington and marched for civil rights along with thousands of other people. A man named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. marched with her. And when she celebrated her 50-year career on stage, the world gave her a standing ovation. It was a long way from St. Louis for little Josephine, but she had made it in her own spectacular way. And these are some pictures of the real Josephine Baker. So this is her in 1908, when she was just a little girl. And this was her in 1927, and we can see her big personality even through a picture. Here is her with her pet cheetah. And this is her during the war. So at the bottom of all the pictures, it tells us a little bit more about Josephine Baker's life. So I'm going to read this to you. And there isn't any photos for this one, but we can imagine what she looks like because we just saw what she looks like up here. So as she was a kid and as she was growing up and with her cheetah. Josephine Baker was born Frida Josephine McDonald in St. Louis, Missouri. Josephine's early years were difficult. She was brought up in poverty in a segregated city. This means there were separate rules for white and black people. These rules affected everything, from houses, medical care, and education, to opportunities, jobs, and access to services. Josephine made it despite the roadblocks put in front of her. She honed her craft watching vaudeville shows and danced herself out of the St. Louis slums. Her act was acrobatic, improvised, and funny all at once. Her unique talent took her to shows in Boston, New York, and Paris. And at the age of 19, Josephine became an overnight sensation in her first Parisian show. Over the following years, she continued to amaze audiences on stage, famously wearing a banana skirt. She became the first black woman to star in a major film, going on to make 4 in total. Then, during World War II, Josephine worked as a spy, carrying information that helped the French resistance against the Nazis. Josephine never stopped fighting for equal rights. She refused to perform in segregated theaters. She spoke at the March on Washington, and she adopted 12 children from around the world, calling them her Rainbow Tribe. Her hope for the future was that people would learn to live in peace and without prejudice. She remained one of the biggest and brightest stars in entertainment for the rest of her life. So I really hope you enjoyed this story, friends, about Josephine Baker.